on to DHS boot camp this week. So glad you're able to join me today. Well, let me just touch base on our last training was on training, actually, staff training. And I just wanted to ask if there were any lingering questions or any comments, or I did have a thought that it may be helpful to discuss the PD registry at some point. I don't know if people are having problems with it, if staff are using it, or what. So any feedback on that? Have staff tried to access the PD registry? Do you know what I'm talking about? Would it help to do a training on the PD registry? Yes, no, maybe. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Smiles. Some response would be helpful.
Sure, it would help to do a training on the PD registry, because just when I think that I'm like, yeah, this seems legit, or like, you
Okay.
didn't do something right. Like I get an email, or like, you didn't do this code right, or like, your supervisor needs to approve this, or like, why can't you fill things out like a reasonable human being? And I'm like, I tried. So
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I always get confused over which classes we need to take and are doing on the registry, and which ones are on Better Kid Care, and how that like relationship, like they link together.
Okay. We can certainly do that. Thank you for that. Good. Any other feedback on that?
Oh, and like how often we update it, because I
Okay.
feel like we update it and then they're like, that wasn't good enough. And again, why can't you be
Okay.
a better person? Like,
Okay.
I'm trying my best.
And I know STARS 101 and 102 are going to come into play here shortly. So I can put that on my list to cover. Good. All right. So today we're going to talk about staff-child ratio. But I first want to talk about the definitions in case you have this burning question about where are the definitions, what does it mean, young school age, older school age? Here they are. So the definition, you can see the definitions for infant, young toddler, older toddler, and preschool, but specifically for you, a young school age child is a child who attends kindergarten to the date the child enters fourth grade. So that includes the summer before they enter fourth grade. They're still considered a young school age child. Why we say our licensed programs are specifically licensed for kindergarten and up, and is why we tell parents that the child had to have attended kindergarten. Okay. They can't be in the summer before they attend kindergarten. It doesn't count. They have to have been in kindergarten in order to attend camp, and obviously in order to attend a before and after school program. An older school age child is a child who attends fourth grade through the age of 15. Probably didn't know that. So for ELRC, is a different story. There's a difference between regulations, DHS regulations, and the ELRC. DHS says that a child can attend a licensed program through the age of 15. However, the ELRC, the Early Learning Resource Center, says that only a child can attend a program to receive help for subsidy before the child turns 13. So once that child turns 13, they have aged out of the subsidized childcare system and they can no longer receive help paying for childcare. Doesn't mean that they can stop attending an after school or before school program or camp program that's licensed. They can. They just cannot receive help for paying for that care. Does that make sense? Okay. There are two scenarios, okay? The regulations allow for similar age level groupings and mixed age levels. So the similar age level groupings are as follows, as you can see there. You can see the infant, young toddler, older toddler, and preschool. Oops. The young school age child, we are to have ratios of 1 staff person to every 12 children. Now, historically, the YMCA has said that we will follow DHS regulations, and the goal ratio to follow is 1 to 10. So just so that you're aware, we strive for a ratio of 1 to 10. The regulation for young school-age children is 1 to 12. Okay. DHS only allows a maximum group size of 24. So you can only put 2 groups of young school-age children together. You can't put 3 or 4, depending on the structure of your program. You can only have a group size of 24 or 2 staff people, and is why some of our older before and after school programs with, say, 22, 23 children, why we only need 2 staff people. It's based on this regulation right here. Okay. When it comes, was there a hand? Yes, you guys, I don't know who raised the hand first.
Artie.
Artie, go ahead.
So are those numbers only whenever it's like licensed, like so for Basemore?
These are specifically for licensed programs. I will tell you, our unlicensed programs do strive to follow these same ratios. We want to treat an unlicensed and a licensed programs the same because it gets too confusing. And truth be told, it's safer. It's safer to follow a smaller ratio anyway. It really is. Does that make sense? Claire.
So for Highcliffe, where we have where we have 28 kids on some days, they're all banded together. The ratio wise, it still meets 1 to 12, but they're all together. It's over 24. Like, are we meant to split them up even though we're in the same room?
You're in the same room and your room's big enough to have all of your kiddos in the same room and you're fine.
Okay.
Really, this pertains to, for example, if you're in a camp setting, for example, and you have a group of 28 kids, by regulation, you can only have 24 kids in your group. If you think about the group of kids moving around camp and you're going together as a big group, you can only have 24 kids in one group. Now you can have several groups together. It's a fine line. It really is. You can have several groups. You can have a group of 24 here and a group of 24 here, and you're all in the same space. It really is a fine line. This is more to just be aware of the supervision aspect and the number of staff that are supervising those children. We're going to talk about supervision later on. I'm setting the stage to talk about supervision and how things move down the road. But I want to make sure the ratios are clear. Is DHS going to make a big deal that you have 28 kids in one room? No, they're not. They're going to be more concerned about the fact that you have to have 3 staff with 28 kids.
Okay. And then also just for the foreigner, 4th grade, is that roughly 10 years old? I know it changes. 10, 9, 10?
10th. I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm so used to saying 4th grade, 3rd grade, because some kids are held back, so it gets a little tricky. But any other questions on that? Older school age are those children who have entered 4th grade. They're actually in 4th grade to the age of 15. That ratio is 1 to 15. So I don't know if you will be having older children at your camps, particularly this summer. I know there's a teen camp at Samson. They will be having older children, but they do have a higher ratio that they can follow, and it's 1 to 15. Okay. That's similar age levels. DHS does allow for mixed age levels. So when children are grouped in mixed ages, it's the age of the youngest child that determines the staff-child ratio and maximum group size in accordance with this regulation. So if I'm grouping a young school ager and older school agers together, young school age is a 1 to 12, older school age is a 1 to 15. When you're mixed group, you've got to follow the younger age group ratio, which puts it at 1 to 12. That make sense? Okay. Okay. Real simple topic. Next week, I'm going to talk about swimming ratios and ultimately building up to supervision and what happens with supervision. But you got to have a pretty good understanding of ratios before we talk about supervision. So I wanted to make sure that these are real clear. Okay. Any questions?
Is there a rule about like ages that can be grouped together? Like, I'm just like, I wouldn't want a 15-year-old group with a 5-year-old. That's just my personal preference. But
No, developmentally, DHS doesn't address that. Developmentally, it is not a wise thing to do. And we know that as professionals. It just, the regulations have to be applicable to the big picture of providers across Pennsylvania. So there are providers out there that provide care in their homes, a family child care center, for example. So they could very well have an infant, school-aged child all in one place. And so that allows having this regulation the way it is allows for that. But as a practice, because of the type of program that we operate, we want to group similar ages together. And absolutely putting an infant with a young school-aged child doesn't developmentally make sense. It really doesn't. But if you have to, you'd have to follow the younger age ratio. Yep. Other questions? All righty, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you.